Hi everyone, I'm DM Thinker, and I'm here to think and talk through solutions for some of the challenges for DMs in D&D. I have almost 1,000 hours DMing in Roll20 and at least another 500 at a table, but I'm far from an expert. I actually just learned a few days ago that a rogue's evasion doesn't use their reactions, so this channel isn't going to dive into really complex rules questions. Instead, I'm going to talk about some of the ideas that I think can help some other DMs out there. Other than playing lots of D&D based video games and reading lots of R.A. Salvatore books, I didn't actually start playing D&D until 5th edition, so all of my experience as a DM and as a player is from there. The thing that makes 5th edition so easy to pick up for both players and DMs is its lack of specific answers for every single question. But it can also make it hard for the DM to know how to deal with certain situations, because there isn't a rule that you can always find in a book. So what I want to talk about today is house rules in general, and one very common specific one as an example. You probably already know that house rules are improvised rules made up by the DM that either contradict an official rule or apply in a situation where there is no official rule. As long as everyone at the table knows what the house rule is and agrees to it, they can add a lot of fun and uniqueness to your game. And for experienced DMs, you can probably find ways to make sure they're balanced and don't break things. But sometimes there can be a tendency to overdo things and start throwing in lots of house rules just because. Trust me, I've done this. There are so many great house rules out there that it can be super easy to just pick a bunch and start using them in your games. But what I try to do now is ask myself two questions. What problem is a specific house rule solving? And does this make things more fun for me and my players? Often it's either not solving a problem at all, or it's just solving a minor problem that probably doesn't need a whole new rule. Or it may solve a problem but in a way that's less fun. DMs have so much else to worry about, from remembering the rules to keeping players engaged, to world building and creating quests and NPCs, that remembering lots of additional house rules can be an extra burden that you don't need. Since my games are usually open world, world building and world remembering takes a lot of energy, so I've really tried to cut back on house rules. Now I try to wait until there's a problem and then I think about how to solve it. Sometimes that does indeed need a house rule. Sometimes it just needs a creative interpretation of an existing rule. Sometimes it only needs a one-time ruling and it never comes up again. Here's an example. The problem with health potions. There are several problems, really. 1, they don't do enough healing, especially at higher levels. 2, the higher level potions are extremely expensive and out of line with the level of healing spell they approximate. 3, players who don't have anything to use a bonus action on are basically giving up their entire turn if they use a potion. 4, because higher level potions are so expensive, and potions take a whole action to use, a player who uses a potion on their turn is very likely to lose all that healing and more if they're attacked again before their next turn. 5. Potion use is especially painful for fighters, who often have nothing to use their bonus action on other than Second Wind. So if they already used Second Wind that day, using a health potion means giving up between 1 and 4 attacks, and mostly causing that turn to be wasted. Now, you can say that the rule helps encourage characters to move strategically, run away when badly wounded, or stick close to their healer. But when one round can easily take 10 or 15 minutes or more, with lots of players and enemies, that's a long time for the player to be waiting around after having only healed themselves a small amount. As a side note, this is why I don't use a lot of stunning or paralyzing moves from enemies, which I'll talk more about in a future video. All these reasons are why my players almost never used healing potions when following the rule as written. That means the party almost certainly needs to have a dedicated healer, and it puts a lot of pressure on that person to spend their turns mostly healing other players, which can also get very boring. So it's clearly a problem, at least for my groups. The solution? A house rule. So my house rule is to have drinking a potion take only a bonus action, and to have administering one to someone else a full action. This way, a player can get a small boost of health and still attack, or cast a spell, or dash, or whatever. For fighters and anyone else who doesn't otherwise have anything for the bonus action, it's almost a free use of healing. For characters who do have bonus actions, it's still a bit of a sacrifice. And for healing a fallen comrade, it still requires the same selfless act of giving up most of your turn. It encourages players to buy healing potions more often, and can even get them to save up for the very expensive ones. It gives the spellcasters more of a chance to do something other than heal, and it can help take away some of the bonus action envy that players sometimes get. I obviously didn't invent this, and it's probably one of the most common house rules. But it's a great example of a house rule that's easy to remember, and also answers my two questions. Does it solve a problem? Yes. Does it make things more fun? Also, yes. Now, there are consequences to any house rule, and both you and your players need to consider this. It means fighters may now choose to down a potion of Frost Giant Strength during their turn and then attack. It means rogues might take a potion of invisibility to get advantage and sneak attack on that same turn. And just the extra healing means fights will be slightly easier than you expected for your players, so you may need to factor that in when planning encounters. But it also means that enemies should use potions in battle. That Hobgoblin Captain should have a couple healing potions on him. Maybe the enemy assassin wants to use an invisibility potion. And since monster stat blocks usually don't have anything to use a bonus action on, it's free healing or buffing for them too. Having the enemies use potions in battle can make things really interesting, and it can also make the battles much more dangerous. Plus, players will be excited if they manage to kill an enemy to find that it has an unused potion of Hill Giant Strength. I want to say that I'm not against house rules, but asking yourself my 2 questions can really help you determine if you need to add more complexity and more to remember. I'd also recommend trying out house rules and abandoning them if they're not working for you. I tried using a house rule of items counting as a number of spaces or slots in a backpack as a way to approximate weight for encumbrance. So a longsword was 1 slot and a greatsword was 2, but we quickly decided that it was super complicated for the players and for me, and it was making things less fun. That outweighed the benefit of solving the problem of keeping track of encumbrance, and now we mostly ignore weight unless the party is just trying to haul around a ton of heavy items. I hope this helps you think about house rules in a new way and maybe feel better about allowing potions as a bonus action if you weren't sure before. If you have ideas for problems that need solutions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it.